everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be going over the manga, light novels, and regular novels that I read during the month of October in 2022. If you like what I say, want to see more of this, don't forget to hit that like button or subscribe. Well, I would prefer if you like and subscribe, but that's up to you. If you want to talk about something that I mentioned, feel free to leave a comment down below. I order these reading logs in order of library books that I borrow from my local library, and then the books that I own, and each section is split into series that I've finished or did not finish due to not wanting to finish it for whatever reason, and then series that I have ongoing, and then moving into new series. And first we have a series that I finished, and that is going to be Devils and Realist. And this is a manga with art by Utako Yukihiro with story by Maruka Takadono. I read volumes 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and the final volume 15. 15 is a bit thicker than the other volumes, and that usually happens, I see, with manga final volumes. These are an older print from 7 Seas with the final volume coming out in 2019. So, for a 15 volume series finishing in 2019, it had been printing, I think, since 2015 or something like that, 2017. So this series follows William, the descendant of Solomon from the Bible, and his duty to pick a new Elector of Hell. Overall, it was a pretty fun series. A solid, for me, a solid 7 out of 10. The art was nice. The characters were all pretty fun and fleshed out. Like a lot of manga, I feel like there's usually a little bit of stumbling at the finish line. And even with the stumbling, the finish here was pretty, pretty satisfying. It wasn't anything earth-shattering or what have you, but it was a lot of fun. I can't really flip open at volume 15 without big spoilers, so let's do a flip at volume 8. There are some side characters whose stories get kind of explored, but overall I feel like they don't need to be there. There's a weird story with Joan of Arc and this dude right here. So you have a little thing. Nope. Maybe in the front, the handy dandy character notes. He is not there, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, there's a weird little side tangent with him and Joan of Arc, and it's really not necessary. It doesn't really add anything to the story. I don't know why it's there, but it didn't really hurt anything by being there. And overall, these are really nice additions. You notice here, there's in the cover, there's little notes about characters that appear. And it's the actual histories of these characters, not just their story within the world. And all volumes have a color illustration on a gloss coated page in the front of the volume. Yeah, so overall, Devils and Realists, a solid 7 out of 10. I'd recommend it to people who enjoy kind of Fujo bait, mild dark fantasy, stuff with pretty characters. But yeah, so let's move that out of the way. And then we move into series from my personal collection, and it's going to be new series. I didn't really finish anything, and I didn't really continue anything. I'm going to start off with Night of the Living Cat. I have posted a full review of this first volume, and I will link it in the cards. I believe it's somewhere around here. But this is story by Hawkman, art by Mecha Roots, and this is a volume 1 put out by 7 Seas. And the art, do a quick peek in here. Yeah, if you want to hear my thoughts on this volume, please check out my full video. Then next we have the Yuri, The Summer You Were There by Yuama. This is a volume 1. And I did not like this. I did not like this at all. I thought both girls were absolutely infuriating, which is such a bummer because I really like this manga because other work we got in English. The girl I like is so handsome. And I was hoping for more from this, and I just did not like either of the girls at all. They were so obnoxious. One is like, "Oh, never again. Don't want to hurt anyone else." And I was like, "What? Did you like bully someone you like were friends with?" Spoilers. Yes, she was a little bit of a bully. They don't go into it in this volume, but I'm just like, oh my god. This is like a little too high school pedantic for me. And then the other girl, this one right here, is like so overly pushy. Like, we should go out. And then she just shows up at her house after finding out her address from someone else in class. Like, she didn't even ask her for her address. She like went around and asked other people to find out where she lives so that she could go to her house after forcing her to go out with her. And she hadn't even agreed to go out with her yet by the time that she invades her house. And I just, oh my god, they were both insufferable, but you know, I'm a sucker for I'm a sucker for cliffhangers, so there is a cliffhanger at the end of this volume. And I was just like, fine. I'll read volume 2, not physically, because this is going to get sold, because I cannot stand it. I do not like it. I do not like either of these girls. Ooh, and it's so sad because the art is really cute. And these girls are really cute. It's just the personality under those cute faces for both of them is so insufferable. Oh my god. Next up is something that is not insufferable, and that is Imaginary Story and Art by Niiro Ikuhana. Or, I don't know if it's Niiro Ikuhana or Niiro. If somebody knows, I would love to see it, have a comment down below. And please let me know the correct way to pronounce that. Anyway, I was totally drawn in by this cover. When I first saw the announcement, I was like, ooh, I do that face all the time. And then I get zits. But, you know, I was totally drawn in by this cover. And then I read the back. And I think Seven Seas is kind of atrocious at their little summaries being anywhere near correct. They're always a little weird, but we'll go over that. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even go over what this story was supposed to be about for the Yuri. So for The Summer You Were There, Shizuku is a shy high schooler who hardly talks to other people. Instead, she loses herself in writing, crafting a novel that she never intends to show anyone. When her cute, popular classmate Kaori gets her hands on Shizuku's manuscript, everything changes. Kaori suggests that in order to give Shizuku material for her next book, the two of them should start dating. Can this mismatched pair create their own happily ever after? And that sounds cute. It sounded so cute, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. I looked at the art, I was like, okay, I like this mangaka's other work. I don't really need to read the first chapter. That was a mistake. I usually read a scan of a chapter 1. I'll admit that. I usually read a chapter 1 scan before I decide to pick something up because I want to know if it's going to be worth it for me. And I should have read the scan for the first chapter, because by the end of chapter 1 I was like, oh shoot, I've made a mistake. But you know what can you do? Anyway, not make that mistake again, that's what. Anyway, so we're moving on to Imaginary. And this was A Love That Could Have Been. Back when Tasuku was a kid, he harbored a secret. He was in love with his friend Micah. But Micah moved away for school before he could gather his courage and confess. Now as adults, they've reconnected as friends, and being together brings back memories of their shared past. It was so easy to fantasize about wild things when they were children, but what has become of those fantasies now that they've grown up? And this is a very good slice of life. And I really enjoyed that the mangaka uses imagination to make the slice of life have a little bit more impact. So just as a heads up, there is a very naked picture in the front, so just be warned. The interior covers have this really beautiful scenery in this pink, which is always fun. I really like Seven Seas releases. I think it's so much better than something like let's take Shujabit. Like, there's nothing on these interior covers. There's no color pages. It feels like there's a lot more care in each volume. So for this volume 1, it's very cute because the characters, when they describe things that they imagine happening, they're like, oh, there's waves on either side of this curb. It'll show the waves that the characters are imagining. Or maybe it's a pit of spikes. I think it's a really lovely touch to... sorry, there's a butt. They're showering. It's a really lovely touch. It is an older audience, judging by the naked people, and I will say Ikuhana Sensei has done hentai in the past and has done, porn, but I mean, who hasn't? But the artwork throughout, here's another one where it's like, oh, if you're imagining a ninja crossing the tops of the buildings as you're riding the train, it really helps with the building of the world and like seeing into how these characters like view the world around them. And then like just even stuff like this where you have characters who are at work and the customers are like, hey, is there an option where she mistreats us? Which I just thought it was so funny because the manager's like, no, there isn't. We're not that kind of establishment. But how much are you willing to pay if she does? It was just a really fun touch, and overall, I really liked the dynamic between our main girl and the main guy, and then their friends all around them as they describe their relationship to and other people. But yeah, so that's everything that I've read, at least this first part of October. It's been a pretty slow month reading-wise for me. Just got other stuff going on. But anyway, I hope to see you guys in the next clip. Continuing the October 2022 reading log, I'm going to be starting off with library reads, and we'll start with All My Darling Daughters by Fumi Yoshinaga. This is a one-shot collection of short stories, all centered around women and their relationship with their mothers. The through-line story follows Yukiko, a salary woman in her 30s who still lives with her mother Mari. Their relationship suffers a sudden change when Mari announces that she's getting married to an ex-host and aspiring actor who's younger than Yukiko. Yukiko, convinced he's out to fleece her mom, can't stand by in the house and decides to move in with her boyfriend. And that's kind of like the through-line story. There are other stories about the friends of the main characters throughout. My favorite one being about a woman who is confused about what love means, as she's someone who finds that she wants to live without prejudice in her heart, and she feels that living with someone, being in a relationship with someone, means that you have prejudice within you because you have to give that person more love than anyone else, thus creating this sense of prejudice. There are some things in this volume that have not aged particularly well. This was originally released in Japan in 2003. It came to the US in 2010. Viz brought this over and they did a fantastic job with this physical release. It is got French flaps, wonderful color illustrations. However, in my searching, I could not find this new anywhere. It was nowhere to be found new, not at Barnes & Noble, not on Right Stuff, not on Books A Million. I didn't check other sites. I didn't check like used sites to see how much this is going for, but just know if you're looking for this new, it is going to be hard to find. Also, I don't know what this circle is here. This is a library copy, as you can tell, but I was just like, is this where the Eisner Award was supposed to go? What is that? It didn't affect the reading. It was just a curious, weird little thing. But this is like an earlier Yoshinaga work, kind of as she's coming out of her Antique Bakery Days, I believe. I could be like totally off base. Do not quote me there. But you'll see she has a little bit of same face syndrome with some of the characters, but overall you can tell who everyone is. And as we can see here, it's a pretty beautiful Yoshinaga spread where the characters are just going over their emotions, their faces, telling you basically everything you need to know with little to no dialogue. That said, this is a very heavy volume with a lot of discussion of family trauma, the love between parent and child, what it means to love someone, what the abuse of a parent, either physically or emotionally, can do to someone over their whole life. There is a story in here where they discuss how someone was called ugly when she was a child, like constantly told that she was ugly, even though she was very pretty, she was very beautiful. But the mother of her mother constantly belittled her because of a trauma that the mother had where a beautiful girl in her childhood had called her stupid. And she was like, I don't want to raise my daughter to be someone like that. So I made sure that she knew her place. And I'm just like, oh my God. Oh. It's not something that I've personally gone through, but I do know people who have parents like that. So it was very it really hit. It really hit for me. I can't imagine what it would be like to read this as someone who went through that. So just fair warning there. And also regarding part of the things that didn't really age well is the second chapter in here follows a male professor at a university, and he is basically hit on by a female student who provides him with some sexual favors, like never sex outright, but they do stuff in his office and things like that. He's not the one who approached her, so he feels like weird about it. He wants to take her out on a date, things like that. But it's a very interesting story, but definitely not something that has aged particularly well since 2003. This is available digitally through all various platforms. So if you do want to read it and you can't find a physical copy anywhere, there is that option. Next up is going to be a continuation of a series that I have been reading as volumes have come out and been available at my library, and that's going to be The Devil is a Part-Timer, or Hataraku Mao. This is volume 18 of the manga. The light novel series has finished in Japan, and so I'm just enjoying the manga as it comes out. I tried reading the light novels and it just wasn't for me. I do enjoy light novels here and there, but because I'd already seen the anime for this and I had the pictures of the characters in my head, and I'd read the manga already, I was just like, you know what, I think I'm just going to keep going with the anime as it comes out. And we just finished season 2. And then the manga, which is slowly catching up to the ending. And I do see kind of where this is starting to head in terms of the ending, because as I have seen what happens kind of at the end, so I understand the frustration people have with it, but again, I think a lot of people forget this is kind of a wish fulfillment male fantasy series, so in the end there is some of that to be played, but it doesn't stop the fun time that we have with these characters along the way. And I literally cannot open this because we are at volume 18 and I will not spoil that. This cover is enough of a spoiler. And then we have another new series that I picked up from the library that I read through and started. I was going to do a 3-volume try on this, and then I got irritated with it, and then I just enjoyed it. So I'm not really going to dig too much into it, because as much as there's stuff to talk about, overall it was just a pretty fun shonen story. And that's going to be Magus of the Library by Mitsu Izumi. And I'll just read the back here. The magic of the written word. In the small village of Amun lives a poor boy named Theo. Theo adores books, but because of his pointed ears and impoverished life, he isn't allowed to use the village library. As he endures the prejudice and hatred of the village, he dreams of going to where such things don't exist. Aftzak, city of books. But one day, Theo chances to meet a Kafna, a librarian who works for the great library of Aftzak, and his life changes forever. Now, this was a really fun series, but the thing that I got irritated with, is that here on the front, it says, based on Kafna of the Wind by Sophie Schwim. And I was like, ooh, I love seeing what books are based on. Let me go look. Only to discover that this whole sentence on the front here is just metatextual BS, because Kafna of the Wind as a book does not exist in our world, like in reality. Sophie Schwim is a character in the Magnus of the Library series, and she's the one who wrote this book that it's saying it's based on. So it's just, metatextual is when a text references itself. So from not even page one, from the cover, this book is being a little pretentious. And I wouldn't mind that if it had a little more to say. The series as a whole has been a lot of fun, these first 3 volumes. There's like really nice touches here, like these shadow puppets when referencing previous stories. The shadow they kind of look like shadow puppets, which were used in like a lot of ancient cultures. A lot of highlight to like places like Southeast Asia and India. You'll see these. And then we have volume 2 here. She's fantastic. I love her. I want more of her. I just saw like a little like snippet of her reappear in volume 3, and I'm just like, please more. I love you. Because volume 1 serves as kind of a prologue to the story. We get to meet Theo and see how he's living, what it's like in his village. And then the prologue ends like a little, like I would say about 7/8 the way through the volume. And then we have a time skip to about 7 years in the future, and Theo is ready to take the exam to become a Kafna. Volume 2 through about halfway through volume 3 is the Kafna exam. And I mean, it's basically like your standard shonen training arc, your shonen exam arc. It's nothing particularly special in terms of like the lessons learned, but the visuals in this story are really wonderful. Like there's a lot of beautiful things, and as they're going to the city to take the exam, actually the first half of this volume 2 is him traveling to the exam, and then the rest would be about the exam. But as he's traveling, you see these beautiful pages where it shows you like places that they're going, and as well as like a little map of where they are on their way to the city where the test is going to be taken. And it's even like shown in to the point where like an animal sidekick gets introduced. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that the way that people were talking about this made me want a little bit more out of it. And I mean, that's probably on me for wanting more out of a shonen coming of age story, which isn't like always going to be the most groundbreaking thing. I did enjoy this though, but there's some more metatextual stuff through here that kind of like bugged me. They talk about the 7 seminal scripts, and there's like 7 books that they always talk about, and they like reference them throughout various things here. You can see them message here. But overall, like the main like pretense of this story is, hey, don't be fantasy racist, even though he's blonde and has pointy ears, all you brown people. And I'm just like, it's a little yikes. But like I get what they were going for. But yeah. Overall, it was pretty fun. Like a solid like 3.5 out of 5. Like I'm hoping maybe as it goes on it'll be better. And I'll see why people were so enamored with this series. But overall, like it's, you know, it does nothing wrong. It's just me. But yeah, Magus at the Library by Mitsuzumi. And then we're going to come up to series that are from my personal collection, and it was all new series that I started this time around. I didn't really continue anything. I didn't start anything new. Well, I did start things new. I didn't finish anything, and I didn't continue any current series. So we're going to start off with a new release, and that's going to be She Loves to Cook and She Loves to Eat. This series just got a live action announcement, and it's by Sakaomi Yuzaki, and I loved this volume. This was just a very sweet story about two women finding friendship in each other, maybe a little spark of romance, but overall most of this volume was just their friendship and like building that relationship with each other. Even though our character here, Nomoto, might be a little bit more keen on Kasuga than Kasuga has on Nomoto, at least in the beginning here. So let me read this back here. Nomoto may be an amateur chef, but she dreams big, at least in terms of food portions. Unfortunately, her appetite isn't as large as her imagination, so she can't give her masterpieces the full enjoyment they deserve. Luckily, one evening she finds the perfect audience in her neighbor, Kasuga, who just happens to love eating. As this impromptu gourmet duo warms up to each other, could tender feelings be brewing? So yeah, basically the story just follows our two characters as they navigate their lives and learn to become friends and like find joy cooking and eating with each other. And as someone who loves to cook and loves to like have dinner with friends, things like that, that was really like touching to me. There is some stuff in here where the mangaka really likes to draw mouths. So I know that might bother some people, so just a forewarning. But this is very PG. They don't even hold hands. There's no kissing, nothing like that. So if you're looking for a very soft girls' love, French girls' love that like is gonna be very slow burn, I feel like, then this is probably gonna be for you. And in the complete opposite vein of She Loves to Cook and She Loves to Eat, I have my next one, which is gonna be Black and White, Tough Love at the Office by Sal Jiang. This story is basically like abuse, the manga, like physical abuse, the manga. So these two women, let me just read the back here. Shirakawa Junko is headed for the top of the corporate ladder in the overseas investor department at the bank where she works, until Kuroda Kayo transfers from corporate sales. Kayo is another all-star employee, and she has a foreign university degree to boot. When Kayo and Junko are assigned to work together, their heated rivalry reaches critical mass. Whether they're banging each other's heads or simply banging each other, these two office rivals are ready to go at it. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of Seven Seas' like little like summations on the back, but this is like spot on. Like, I had read scans of this before the license was announced, and I'm just like, oh boy, yeah. I was very surprised when this got licensed because it's very like they're very abusive to each other. As you can see, like they bite each other, they like punch each other in the face, throw each other across the office. If that's something that bothers you, I would not touch this with a 10-foot pole. They do have sex, but nothing is like explicitly shown. It's all very like implied. There is like a hand that touches like some panties, but there's no like shiny downstairs region or anything like that. Nothing is shown. So I would say this is probably like maybe like a PG-17 in terms of sexual content, but I would say it's like not for the faint of heart in terms of people who might have problems with like domestic violence. So anyway, it's gonna be Black and White, Tough Love at the Office. And just so you know, this is a very heavy volume. Seven Seas, at least for some of their volumes, will print on like a much heavier a much heavier stock for the center, and this is one of those. I can actually show you. Let me find my scale. All right, here's the scale. So if we compare Black and White to She Loves to Cook, She Loves to Eat. She Loves to Cook, She Loves to Eat is by Yen Press. So as we can see, there's a little bit of a width difference. The height is the same, but she loves to cook, she loves to eat. It's a bit thicker. So we'll put that on here first. And we see it's just under 8 ounces. Whereas Tough Love at the Office, put that on here, that's like 10.5 ounces. That's like almost 2 full extra ounces. That's crazy for a thinner book that's the same height. So some volumes just be getting that fancy paper, I guess. I mean, we saw that with the Tokyo Revengers releases, but know that it's not just for those. It's for other various volumes that Seven Seas prints. I'm pretty sure it's whatever printer they send it to. But anyway, we're going to move on to another series that's a hefty lad. That is also put out by Seven Seas, and that's going to be Die Dark by Kyu Hayashida. This is Hayashida's work after Dorohedoro, and it is much more comedy focused than Dorohedoro was. The story follows Zaha Sanko, whose body has great and terrible powers. They say possessing his bones will grant you any wish, even the desire to become ruler of the universe. But Sanko's still a teenage dude with his own life, and he isn't about to let every monstrous lowlife in the galaxy rip him limb from limb. He and his skeletal buddy Avakian will use their dark powers to fend off any murder attempts while they search space for whoever put this curse on Sanko's bones, because killing them might end the madness, and then Sanko can celebrate with his favorite spaghetti. The spaghetti line is very funny because in one of these volumes, Sanko goes to school. He like sneaks into a school, and to give them a fake name, he registers Meatball Spaghetti. And when doing roll call, the teacher will be like, "Where is Meatball Spaghetti?" And he'll be like, "It's me, I'm here." These are wonderful releases from Seven Seas. Seven Seas does great jobs. This is that heavier stock that Black and White is printed on. These volumes also have some like color pages in the front, as well as for volume 2 in the middle. Here you go. Just to give you a little bit more information on like the humor that you'll see in here is very like absurdist humor. Like this character here is like, "My name's Moja. I'm a spaceship AI powered by mystic darkness." He's like, "Oh, I thought that was the system. I'm a support minibot. I'm connected to the main system by this tube in my butt." Like, just weird stuff like that where you're just like reading and you're like, "Wait, what?" So you have to like read it again to get through the absurdity. But yeah, so I'm really having a good time with this. This is Hayashida at her best. The art is a lot easier to get into initially than like early volumes of Dorohedoro. But I definitely recommend this to anyone who enjoyed Dorohedoro and might be up for a little bit more of Hayashida's, like absurdist humor. But I think that's gonna be it for this video. I should be able to get at least a few more volumes read before the end of the month, but we'll see. And I hope to see you in the next clip. So I was able to get a little bit more than a few volumes read. So I am going to be adding an extra section to this part of the video, and that's going to be the section where I talk about reads that I did through digital platforms like subscription platforms. This one is going to include Kindle Unlimited as well as the Shonen Jump app. And then to start off, we're always going to do library books, and then now it's going to be Yotsuba, volume 15. This is the most recent volume of Yotsuba. Each volume has like longer and longer times between it. And I've never actually read Yotsuba all in a row. I've read volumes here and there because it is so episodic, and like once you kind of are introduced to the characters, you get a little bit more of a sense of what it is going to be about. Sorry about that cut there, had to step away for a moment. But anyway, Yotsuba volume 15, it's just a fantastic slice of life. It is probably like the slowest of the slow of slice of life that you could possibly imagine. Kiyohiku Azuma's artwork just continues to evolve and be something so just special. Just the way that he draws just scenery. You can see here like the ocean, because they're gonna go collect rocks. Like that's a whole chapter, is them going to the ocean to collect rocks and how beautiful the rocks are. But like, look at this. It's so stunning. Like just these individually drawn rocks. Like it's just something it's something you can read and just be like, it's like a breath. It's like a fresh breath of fresh air when you read Yotsuba. The end of this volume, I'm getting a little choked up just thinking about it. The end of this volume had me like crying. Like really, it was so touching. The end of volume 15. It's hard to spoil Yotsuba because it's so like everyday life, but I will say it's Yotsuba goes shopping for a backpack. And I'll just leave it at that. And if you know the story, you know there's probably something that's going to tug at your heartstrings with just that statement. But Yotsuba's phenomenal. I've been loving each volume that I pick up. It's something that, you know, like I said, it's something I pick up here and there. I own a lot of the volumes in Japanese, so I read through that very slowly compared to like this. But anyway, Yotsuba 15, and that's going to be it for my library books. I've been trying very hard to get through the books in my personal library because I realized that I was hitting this like 75% mark where I read only 75%. I had like 25% of my collection that was like unread, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. So I tried really hard to read what I have, and that's gonna be continuing Die Dark by Q Hayashida. This is gonna be volume 3. And volume 4. And this is everything that is currently out in English. I have volume 5 pre-ordered, and I think that's supposed to be coming out sometime either December or sometime next year. I can't remember. It got moved from the original release date. But this continues the story from the last time that we were chatting. And it's just following Zahasanko and Shimada Death and Vakion as they're going through space and basically causing havoc wherever they go. I just love that like the good faction here just call these guys the 4 little shits. Like that is literally what they call it. They're like, oh no, it can't be the 4 little shits. How could they do this and kill all our men? It's so good. But I'm loving the look of all these volumes. They're fantastic. And, you know, Hayashida's artwork is also just phenomenal. And yeah, no, they do such a great job with these releases. Again, this is that really heavy stock that Seven Seas will sometimes print on. I can't say too much because, you know, we're at like volume 3 and 4. But there's a big development that occurs as far as the other faction that kind of is after our 4 little shits, as it were. So I'm very excited for volume 5 to come here eventually. And then we're gonna move on to another ongoing series we're waiting for the final volume on, and that's gonna be Can't Stop Cursing You, with art by Natsuko Uruma, with original story by Kensuke Koba. And now that I have read these 2 volumes, I now understand why everyone is so frustrated that there's no volume 4, because holy cliffhanger volume 3, what the heck? Like, again, it's very interesting because each volume follows a single curse bearer and their story with our team. I definitely get the feeling that this artist team wanted to make it longer than 4 volumes, but they probably got canceled partway through, because as much as it's like a good series, it is not something that we haven't seen before. It's not something that, you know, we weren't seeing as this was being released in Japan. So it probably just unfortunately hit like a very like weird timing where it wasn't performing to the right amount, or maybe the magazine had something in it that was performing better, and it just got canceled. So we'll see how it wraps up in volume 4, hopefully next year. But the Curse Bearers, it is, you know, it's an older teen series. I don't recommend this for anyone who's even like a little bit squeamish, because there's like pretty violent deaths, especially in volume 3. So just a fair warning on that one. Next is going to be a new release out of Kodansha or Vertical. It's a Vertical book out of Kodansha, and that's going to be Last Gender When We Are Nameless by Deitaki. This is an adult title. I am not going to open it too much. I will flip to the first color page because that's safe for work. There is quite a bit of not safe for work content in here, in the on like the more sexual spectrum versus violence. And I will read. Welcome to Bar, California, a place for you to reveal your true self. People of different genders, propensities, and sexual orientations gather at a certain chic bar that's hidden from the public eye. While some come in search of themselves, others step into the establishment looking for sex and love. There are many sexualities as there are people, and the patrons' stories intertwine as they struggle to find happiness. A bisexual trans woman who's been hurt by the voices of others wishes she had a normal relationship. A married middle-aged salaryman secretly expresses his female side, and a pansexual cis guy is on the lookout for true love. So this is my first time finding a series that discusses so many different sexualities and gender identities and things like that, especially in Japanese media, especially in manga. And it was so well written, but I will say it is very sexual. There's certain moments where you're like, but overall, I really enjoyed this. I'm very excited for volume 2 when that comes out next year. It is pretty episodic, with each chapter covering, like, kind of going and following a different patron of the bar, with the stories kind of interconnecting as you see the new patron or like another patron interacting with someone you saw in a previous chapter, or someone from a previous chapter getting their own appearance in their own chapter to follow their story. And like they even discover like a woman who's aromantic, and it was really good. But I will say, please check content warning, please check trigger warning, because there's a lot in here that I know can be triggering for some people. So please check that out before you pick this up. It does come plastic wrapped. It is like very much an 18+ title. So please check it out. It was really interesting too, because even though this is a very thin volume, in the back it contains the original one-shot chapter that became the Last Gender series. So that was a pretty cool inclusion, especially for volume 1. Usually you see something like that in like a later volume. So, and especially because it has like some of the same beats as the actual first chapter. So I do recommend it, but again, please check content warnings before you pick this up. And that was Last Gender. And then we'll be doing continuing, and that is going to be Frieren Beyond Journey's End, story by Kanehito Yamada with art by Tsukasa Abe. This is volume 6. And it's so good. I love Frieren, and this volume specifically was just great. It was so good. I think a lot of people, you know, kind of were a little like not sure how to feel about Frieren, especially with the first volume being as slow as it was, but the stories just continue to pick up. You see a lot more like discussions of what's the word I'm looking for? That's gonna be strategy, like discussions of strategy and how to take on certain things. In this volume, they're going into a dungeon, you know, and that's super cool. The last page of this volume had me like cracking up. I was like cry laughing at just like the last panel. If you read this, you'll know what I'm talking about, but that last panel just had me rolling. I was like, oh my god, it's so good. I need volume 7 already, but you know, I'm so happy to be picking this up as it's coming out, and I hope to discuss this more with more people in the future, because just loving this series. And I hope the anime adaptation does well, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then the final volume that I read from my personal collection is going to be a new edition, and that's going to be Dandadan by Yukinobu Tatsu. I was reading Dandadan digitally through the Viz website with my subscription, and I loved it. And then I kind of like forgot to read it a lot because of the explicit content. It's not available on the Jump app. It's only available if you read it on the Viz website, which I think they were doing with other series that kind of hit this explicit content warning. I think they have Golden Kamui, or they did when I was reading this, and I read the first volume of Golden Kamui that way. But it makes it a little bit harder for me, like, mentally to keep up with it. So I'm happy to finally get the physical release of this, and it's just so much fun. Like, whoever did the translations for the first chapter has just the absolute biggest brain. Like like I want to know, I need to find like a Japanese volume and see what they translated the whole, like, I'll let you suckle my teats if you let me gobble your schlong. I need to know what that was in Japanese. I need to know, like, what did they translate that phrase from? It's just wild. Like, I can tell you, like, I'll tell you like the wackiest story, but you probably heard it from a million other people, and you'll be like, wow, thanks for the spoilers. And it's like, that's chapter 1, bro. Like, that's just chapter 1. But I highly recommend Dandadan. I'll read the back for you guys, but please check it out, especially if you have the Jump app. If you're not sure if you want to pick it up, even the first chapter is free on the Viz website if you log in. So please, please, please check it out. And this is Momo Ayase strikes up an unusual friendship with her school's UFO fanatic, whom she nicknames Okarun because he has a name that is not to be said aloud. While Momo believes in spirits, she thinks aliens are nothing but nonsense. Her new friend, meanwhile, thinks the exact opposite. To settle matters, the two set out to prove each other wrong. Momo to a UFO hotspot, and Okarun to a haunted tunnel. What unfolds next is a beautiful story of young love and oddly horny aliens and spirits. And that's just like a very nice, succinct wrap up of what happens in that first chapter. The story, I promise, if you feel like the story is just going to be another like Jujutsu Kaisen or something like that, please, please, please give it at least 2 or 3 volumes, because it turns into it's still wacky and weird and fun, but it turns into this beautiful found family story of all these weird kids, man. And it's so good. So that's Dandadan Volume 1. And then we're going to move on to the new section. And that's going to be the section where I talk about stuff I read online. And we're going to just start with stuff that I read weekly or bi-weekly as it comes out on the Shonen Jump app. And I am currently keeping up with Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto, Chojin X by Sui Ishida, Akane Banashi by Yuki Suenaga and Takamasa Moe, Kaiju No. 8 by Naoya Matsumoto, and Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo. Those are my current keep-ups on the Jump app. I've been meaning to try and check out some new stuff, but I need to read the volumes on my shelf, man. The Shonen Jump app is so easy to just pick up. Like, it's like, oh, I have a chapter to read. Boop. Especially as I'm recording this is actually November 1st. I'm finishing up this video, and I just read the new Chainsaw Man chapter, and it was only 18 pages long, and there was like no dialogue, and I'm like, my boy, please. I just want a little bit more. But yeah, like, all of these are just, they're at such a hype. I'm a little bit on rough waters with Chojin X. Not sure how I'm feeling about it. It's feeling a little bit too samey to other previous Jump titles that I've read, so we'll see how that one goes. Akane Banashi, I'm so happy that it got a physical release. This is going to be another one where I'm like probably gonna pick up the physicals because I just love it so much. If you haven't read it, please, please, please read it. Like, do yourself a favor, read it. It's like in my personal opinion, it is the best thing coming out of Jump proper right now. I don't think it's Jump Plus. I think it's coming out in the actual Jump magazine. And in my personal opinion, it is the best thing in that Jump magazine. Because Chojin X, Chainsaw Man, Kaiju number 8, and Spy Family are all Jump Plus titles. Akane Banashi, I think, is the only thing that I'm reading as it comes out from the actual Jump magazine. Chainsaw Man, Akane Banashi, Kaiju number 8 continues to be, just solidly good. Like, there's nothing, like, it is like, it's just good. Like, it's not like doing anything particularly phenomenal, but it's just like, oh yeah, I can read a chapter of that. And then Spy Family, just so good. Just so good. The most recent chapter though has me clenching my butt a little because I'm like, oh no, Anya, what's happening, girl? But anyway, we'll move on to Kindle Unlimited. And the first one is going to be an actual novel that I read because my friend on Twitter, Think Pink Writes, recommended to me something because she just knows my taste. And that is A Soul to Keep by Opal Rain. And that is I think it's called the Duskwalker series. And it's so... It is spicy monster effer romance. And it was just the perfect little, like, thing that I needed to read to just get my brain back into reading. Because I was, like, a little bit, all month. But it was so good. If you like spicy romance and you also like wish that Elias was married to an actual adult so you could see the dojins, this is gonna be for you. And then it's gonna be some manga that I read through the Kindle Unlimited service, and that's gonna be the first 3 volumes for Wake Up Sleeping Beauty by Megumi Morino. And this is put out by Kodansha. There are physicals for this, but the first 3 are available through the Kindle Unlimited if you want to give it a try. And I'm glad I did because while it was fun, I believe it's finished at 6 volumes. While it was fun, there's some stuff that I didn't really care for in it. And while I read those first 3 volumes, I don't really feel a need to read further. It was a solid shoujo, but it wasn't really what I wanted from it. Like, again, it does nothing wrong. It's just a me thing, not really what I wanted. And then came a really dumb title, like the 2 really dumb titles that I read this month, which was the first one being BL Fans Love My Brother by Mimu Oyomata. This is put out by Tokyo Pop and is available through Kindle Unlimited digitally as well as a physical release. This one is so silly. It is basically a shut-in, like a hikikomori boy, like loves this, I don't even remember, he just loves this anime about buff men, and he draws dojin, and he gets asked to attend an event and vend, but he's like, they don't know who I am, they don't know what I look like, so he asks his sister to help him, and it's just a really wacky, silly time. And it turns into a really sweet story about the brother and his sister, like learning to appreciate each other's likes, the like sister kind of coming into her own and wanting to draw things. It's overall a very sweet story with a very silly premise. And then it's just going to be the hot garbage that I read, which it's hot garbage, but it's like the hot garbage that you read for fun. And it's going to be Teacup Toy Boy by Kana Umino, and this is a release, ebook only release by Futekia. I have a Futekia subscription that I keep forgetting to cancel. But I read this on Kindle Unlimited, so please know that it's available both ways. This is a very silly one-shot story about like a boy who gets shrunk down to the size of a teacup, and he like professes his feelings. It's like the most head empty BL you could possibly imagine. But if you're just looking for something that's just like, oh, that's cute, that's it for you. It's not It's not spicy, it's not anything like that. So I would highly recommend it if you're looking for something to recommend to someone who likes BL but doesn't like the super raunchy or spicy side of it. That's gonna actually wrap up everything that I read in October. What I thought was gonna be a pretty short month ended up being fairly long, so I do and I do not apologize for this video being as long as it is. In the meantime, if you like what I said, you want to like clap back at me and be like, no, Wake Up Sleeping Beauty is the best manga to have ever existed. How dare you say it's not the best? Or if you want to agree with me and say that BL Fans Love My Brother was so cute, or you want to, you know, any of that, leave it in the comments. Please don't post spoilers for any of the ongoing titles in the comments. For those, if you want to chat with someone about it, I'm available on Instagram and Twitter at BazReadsBooks. I'd love to chat with somebody about ongoing series because I don't have anyone to talk to about them. The only one I have people to talk to about is Chainsaw Man. But I need to talk to people about Spy Family and Akane Banashi because they're so good. But anyway, I'd love if you, you know, do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, hit that bell. It still hurts to say all that, but please do that. If you don't feel like doing that, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.